End of Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 of the Best Christmas Pageant Ever. "Oh, we had a bed," Ralph said, "only Ollie was still in it and he wouldn't get out. He didn't like Gladys." He elbowed Ollie. "Remember how you didn't like Gladys? I thought that was pretty smart of Ollie not to like Gladys right off the bat." "Anyway," Mother said, "Mary and Joseph used the manger. A manger is a large wooden feeding trough for animals." "What were the wadded up clothes?" Claude wanted to know. "The what?" Mother said. "You read about it. She wrapped him in waddled up clothes." "Swaddling clothes," Mother sighed. "Long ago, people used to wrap their babies very tight in big pieces of material so they couldn't move around. It made the babies feel cozy and comfortable." "I thought it probably just made the babies mad. Till then I didn't know what swaddling clothes were either, and they sounded terrible, so I wasn't too surprised when Imogene got all excited about that." "You mean they tied him up and put him in a feed box?" she said. "Where was the child welfare?" The child welfare was always checking up on the herdmans. I'll bet if the child welfare had ever found Gladys all tied up in a bureau drawer, they would have done something about it. "And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them," Mother went on, "and the glory of the Lord shone round them, and Shazam!" Gladys yelled, flinging her arms out and smacking the kid next to her. "What?" Mother said. Mother never read Amazing Comics. "Out of the black night with horrible vengeance, the mighty "I don't know what you're talking about, Gladys," Mother said. "This is the angel of the Lord who comes to the shepherds in the fields and—" "Out of nowhere, right?" Gladys said. "In the black night, right?" "Well," Mother looked unhappy, "in a way." So Gladys sat back down looking very satisfied, as if this was at least one part of the Christmas story that made sense to her. "Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea," Mother went on reading, "behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying—" "That's you, Leroy," Ralph said. "And Claude and Ollie, so pay attention." "What does it mean, wise men?" Ollie wanted to know. "Were they like school teachers?" "No, dumbbell," Claude said. "It means like President of the United States." Mother looked surprised and a little pleased, like she did when Charlie finally learned the times tables up to 5. "Why, that's very close, Claude," she said. "Actually, they were kings." "Well, it's about time," Imogene muttered. "Maybe they'll tell the innkeeper where to get off and get that baby out of the barn." They saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him and presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. "What's that stuff?" Leroy wanted to know. "Precious oils," Mother said, "and fragrant resins." "Oil?" Imogene hollered. "What kind of cheap king hands out oil for a present? You get better presents from the firemen." Sometimes the herdmans got Christmas presents at the firemen's party, but the Santa Claus always had to feel around the packages to make sure they weren't getting bows and arrows or dart guns or anything like that. Imogene usually got sewing cards or jigsaw puzzles, and she never liked them, but I guess she figured they were better than oil. Then we came to King Herod, and the herdmans never heard of him either, so Mother had to explain that it was Herod who sent the wise men to find the baby Jesus. "Was it him that sent the crummy presents?" Ollie wanted to know, and Mother said it was worse than that. He planned to have the baby Jesus put to death. "My God," Imogene said. "He just got born and already they're out to kill him?" The herdmans wanted to know all about Herod, what he looked like, how rich he was, and whether he fought wars with people. "He must have been the main king," Claude said, "if he could make the other 3 do what he wanted them to." "If I was king," Leroy said, "I wouldn't let some other king push me around. You couldn't help it if he was the main king. I'd go be king somewhere else." They were really interested in Herod, and I figured they liked him. He was so mean, and he could have been their ancestor, Herod Herdman. But I was wrong. "Who's going to play Herod in this play?" Leroy asked. "We don't show Herod in our pageant," Mother said, and they all got mad. They wanted somebody to be Herod so they could beat on him. I couldn't understand the herdmans. You would have thought the Christmas story came right out of the FBI files. They got so involved in it, wanted a bloody end to Herod, worried about Mary having her baby in a barn, and called the wise men a bunch of dirty spies. And they left the first rehearsal arguing about whether Joseph should have set fire to the inn or just chased the innkeeper into the next country. Chapter 5. When we got home, my father wanted to hear all about it. Well, Mother said, just suppose you'd never heard the Christmas story and didn't know anything about it, and then somebody told it to you. What would you think? My father looked at her for a minute or two, and then he said, well, I guess I would think it was pretty disgraceful that they couldn't find any room for a pregnant woman except in the stable. I was amazed. It didn't seem natural for my father to be on the same side as the Herdmans, but then it didn't seem natural for the Herdmans to be on the right side of a thing. It would have made more sense for them to be on Herod's side. Exactly, Mother said. It was perfectly disgraceful, and I've never thought about it much. You hear all about the nice warm stable with all the animals breathing and the sweet-smelling hay, but that doesn't change the fact that they put Mary in a barn. Now let me tell you. She told my father all about the rehearsal, and when she was through, she said, it's clear to me that deep down those children have some good instincts after all. My father said he couldn't exactly agree. According to you, he said, their chief instinct was to burn Herod alive. No, their chief instinct was to get Mary and the baby out of the barn. But even so, it was Herod they wanted to do away with, and not Mary or Joseph. They picked out the right villain. That must mean something. Maybe so. My father looked up from his newspaper. Is that what finally happened to Herod? What did happen to Herod anyway? None of us knew. I had never thought much about Herod. He was just a name, somebody in the Bible, Herod the king. But the Herdmans went and looked him up. The very next day, Imogene grabbed me at recess. How do you get a book out of the library? She said. You have to have a card. How do you get a card? You have to sign your name. She looked at me for a minute with her eyes all squinched up. Do you have to sign your own name? I thought Imogene probably wanted to get one of those dirty books out of the basement, which is where they keep them, but I knew nobody would let her do that. There is this big chain across the stairs to the basement, and Miss Grabner, the librarian, can hear it rattle no matter where she is in the library, so you can't stand a chance of getting down there. Sure, you have to sign your own name, I said. They have to know who has the books. I didn't see the difference it made whether she signed the card with her own name or signed the card Queen Elizabeth. Miss Grabner still wasn't going to let Imogene Herdman take any books out of the public library. I guess she couldn't stop them from using the library, though, because that was where they found out about Herod. They went in that afternoon, all 6 of them, and told Miss Grabner that they wanted library cards. Usually when anyone told Miss Grabner that they wanted a library card, she got this big happy smile on her face and said, good, we want all our boys and girls to have library cards. She didn't say that to the Herdmans, though. She just asked them why they wanted library cards. We want to read about Jesus, Imogene said. Not Jesus, Ralph said. The king who was out to get Jesus, Herod. Later on, Miss Grabner told my mother that she had been a librarian for 38 years and loved every minute of it because every day brought something new and different. But now, she said, I might as well retire. When Imogene Herdman came in and said she wanted to read about Jesus, I knew I'd heard everything there was to hear. At the next rehearsal, Mother started again to separate everyone into angels, shepherds, and guests at the end, but she didn't get very far. The Herdmans wanted to rewrite the whole pageant and hang Herod for a finish. They couldn't stand it that he died in bed of old age. It wasn't just Jesus he was after, Ralph told us. He killed all kinds of people. He even killed his own wife, Leroy said, and nothing happened to him, Imogene grumbled. Well, he died, didn't he? Somebody said. Maybe he died a horrible death. What'd he die of? Ralph shrugged. It didn't say. Flu, I guess. They were so mad about it that I thought they might quit the pageant, but they didn't. Not then or ever, and all the people who kept hoping that the Herdmans would get bored and leave were out of luck. They showed up at rehearsal right on time and did just what they were supposed to do. But they were still Herdmans, and there was at least one person who didn't forget that for a minute. One day I saw Alice Winkledon writing something down on a little pad of paper and trying to hide it with the other hand. It's none of your business, she said. It wasn't any of my business, but it wasn't any of Alice's either. What she wrote was, Gladys Herdman drinks communion wine. It isn't wine, I said. It's grape juice. I don't care what it is, she drinks it. I've seen her 3 times with her mouth all purple. They steal crayons from the Sunday school cupboard, too, and if you shake the happy birthday bank in the kindergarten room, it doesn't make a sound. They stole all the pennies out of that. I was amazed at Alice. I would never think to go and shake the happy birthday bank. And every time you go into the girls' room, she went on, the whole air is blue, and Imogene Herdman is sitting there in the Mary costume, smoking cigars. Alice wrote all these things down, and how many times each thing happened. I don't know why, unless it made her feel good to see it in black and white, just how awful they were. Since none of the Herdmans had ever gone to church or Sunday school or read the Bible or anything, they didn't know how things were supposed to be. Imogene, for instance, didn't know that Mary was supposed to be acted out in a certain way, sort of quiet and dreamy and out of this world.